Hello and welcome. I'm Al Barrows, and this is UFO Disclosure, the podcast that's meant to show an average person's reaction to all the UAP, UFO news from everywhere and anywhere. So, a mysterious sphere fell from the sky in Colombia, cold to the touch and hot inside, with mysterious ancient symbols. But is it an authentic UAP or just a simple hoax? I found this on WeirdDarkness.com. So in March of this year, residents of BUGA, Colombia, witnessed something extraordinary in their skies. A mysterious metallic sphere was spotted zigzagging through the air in patterns that defied the movements of conventional aircraft before descending and landing on Colombian soil. The video footage captured the silver orb moving at remarkable speed before suddenly descending and coming to rest on the ground amid some brush. The object, approximately 50 centimeters in diameter, or approximately 19.6 or thereabout inches in diameter, with no visible welds or joints, it quickly became known as the BUGA sphere. It was recovered on March the 2nd by local residents, including men named Jose and David Velez El Potro. The sphere reportedly weighed about 4.5 pounds and felt cold to the touch. It was described as having the temperature of a refrigerator. Strangely, after handling the object, Jose reportedly felt sick for several days. In an even more puzzling development, when Mr. Del Potro poured water onto the sphere, he claimed it began to smoke. The water evaporated instantly, suggesting the interior was hot while the exterior remained cold. The Colombian government allegedly contacted him, requesting he hand over the mysterious object, but he refused, fearing that it would never be seen again. Instead, he entrusted it to Haimei Maan, a controversial Mexican journalist known for his investigations into unexplained phenomena. Maan, who gained attention in 2017 for claiming to have discovered alien mummies in Peru, his findings still remain unconfirmed. So he wasted no time traveling to Colombia to personally examine this metallic orb. Upon initial examination, Maan described the artifact as solid with no visible welds, inscribed with symbols, letters, and featuring a porous design. But the investigation was just beginning. The sphere was subjected to X-ray analysis by radiologist Dr. Jose Luis Velasquez, revealing astonishing details about its internal structure. The X-rays showed the object consisted of 3 distinct layers of metal-like material, with the outer layer being the densest, the outer shell potentially composed of titanium or steel, though further compositional analysis would be needed to confirm this. Most intriguingly, the scans revealed 18 small microspheres distributed in what appeared to be a non-random pattern around a central nucleus that researchers dubbed as a chip. These points showed no signs of fracture, with each extending approximately 0.5 centimeter into the interior of the sphere. Scientists speculated that these points could be sensors, bolts, or fragments of microspheres with their symmetrical arrangement, suggesting advanced technology or deliberate engineering. Additionally, the team observed a central band composed of different material containing more small spheres, which they believed may have been placed inside before the object was sealed. However, the X-rays revealed no visible signs of assembly techniques, no welds, no joints, nothing that would typically indicate human fabrication. The sphere's exterior was equally puzzling, featuring inscriptions researchers compared to ancient scripts, including runes, and Mesopotamian writing systems. Using AI to assist in deciphering these symbols, the team interpreted a message saying, quote, "The origin of birth through union and energy, and the cycle of transformation, meeting point of unity, expansion, and consciousness, individual consciousness. The researchers boldly claimed, quote, "We interpret it as a message to humanity, encouraging a collective shift in consciousness to help Mother Earth, especially considering the current issues with pollution and environmental decline," end quote. Dr. Velasquez and his team concluded it is of artificial origin in that it shows no evidence of welding and its internal structure is composed of high-density elements. More testing is needed to establish its origin. The sphere of BUGA is not without precedent. Some UFO enthusiasts have likened it to a similar mystifying metallic sphere filmed in 2016 by a U.S. military spy plane in Iraq. But skepticism abounds. Plesro, who handed the sphere over to Maussan, is the owner of a German company, a metal detector retailer. This connection has led some to speculate that the entire phenomenon might be a cleverly disguised marketing campaign to promote his products. Adding fuel to this theory, local media reported that employees from the company appeared in videos inspecting the sphere while wearing white lab-style suits. Was this scientific caution or simply a social media stage prop? The footage has an abrupt ending and has also raised eyebrows among skeptical observers. As one source noted, it seems unfathomable that someone would stop filming at the crescendo of the sighting when one would presumably be able to closely examine the curious sphere. More cynical viewers have suggested the orb could have been an errant balloon or a drone controlled by the witness. What's undeniable is that the sphere has achieved what many marketing campaigns dream of: global attention, activation of major media outlets, and furious conversation around the unexplained. The story has spread virally across platforms like TikTok and Instagram, with audiences divided between those who see legitimate evidence of extraterrestrial visitation and those who suspect an elaborate hoax. As the object reportedly undergoes further analysis, with plans to transport it to the United States for examination by scientists and specialized labs, the mystery deepens. So did something historic just happen in Colombia? The BUGA sphere supposedly defies explanation. Now it's the center of an international investigation involving congressmen, physicists, and of all people, Dr. Stephen Greer.
Now, there have been spheres found before, and in the United States, special forces thugs go in and get them, and people have been killed possessing them. Very smart that you keep it safe and that you also disclose it. It's transparent. Everything goes out. My assessment of this is pending, but it's certainly real. It's using an energy field, and what we probably would say is electrogravitic, which means a type of anti-gravity effect from the electromagnetic forces. And whether it is of purely extraterrestrial origin or a mix of an ancient human extraterrestrial development, there are 4 or 5 possibilities. And this is what we want to look at. If we can get some of the materials and do carbon dating, we can, from the polymer, then we will know how old it is. If it predates this kind of manufacture, it'll be extraordinary. So I think there's a lot of investigation. We have some really good scientists here with us who can do those research with you and confirm and help and join forces with your effort.
Okay, so Dr. Stephen Greer thinks that the BUGA sphere is real. He's also pushing for carbon dating and isotope analysis.
The other point is the scientific studies, what we want to do would include looking at certain isotopes that would determine if those metals appeared and were originated off-planet or on-planet. It's very difficult to do, it's expensive, but that's what we're going to try to do. We want to try to carbon date it from the polymer if we can get enough. We want to be able to also advise on certain physics tests that can be done. And the gentleman mentioned spinning it and what have you. We have some ideas about that. One thing as just a to remember. We know the difference between extraterrestrial, say, manufacturing and 21st century human manufacturing. Now, the question is, there have been extraterrestrial involvement with this planet for probably millions of years, certainly for millennia, and is this object from a prior extraterrestrial involvement, or even an ancient civilization that lived here that was perhaps even human or part human that made these?
Or another option would be, is it just a hoax? Not only is the BUGA sphere itself very confusing and the footage we're being shown, but the people surrounding it tend to confuse me. Not sure who exactly found it or who's involved with it exactly. I know it's in Mexico now. I'm going to show you a couple of people that were posted online as having possession of this BUGA sphere. Ultimately, Haimei Maan had it, but there were a couple of other individuals before he got his hands on it in Mexico. This guy is a contractor who supposedly took the original video of the BUGA sphere. His name is William Zuniga, and he's the one that recorded or took the best video of this UAP called the BUGA sphere.
That's the site where the sighting was made. This is a sugarcane plantation right here. It's very close to the city of Cali. And you can hear the sound that the sphere is making when it gets close to the sugarcane. So I called David Velez up. David called Jaime up. We shared the video. We waited a few days. I didn't want to show myself on camera, but since my name wasn't going to be made public, then I said, go ahead. But it was only after a while that I obtained the courage to say my name in public. You're a contractor, correct? Yes, I'm a contractor of several companies.
Okay, so he took the original video. He mentions that the BUGA sphere runs into those wires. Now, my question is, why would something that's so high-tech not detect those wires? Okay, so after a month in the shadows, not saying anything, the original finder of the BUGA sphere, Don Jose, finally shows up. And he also speaks at this conference in Mexico.
Here I am, alive and well, giving my testimony. This is the first time that Don Jose has allowed his name to be known and for the world to know who found the sphere. Why didn't you want your identity to be known? It turns out that I have 2 children who don't like so many things. So he told me, no, Daddy, stay still, it's better to wait. But when I saw the UNAN study, the study by Dr. Garrido, one of the doctors, that's when I made up my mind because it was real. So I was happy about that. That's when I told Engineer David, who is a cousin, to tell him, I'm going to show my face. Obviously, I didn't want to because it's like having a treasure and letting someone come and eat it, and it's dangerous. Yes, it's dangerous.
What happened to you when you took the sphere home?
When I took it, there's a video, like a photo, of it in my stomach. That night I got the sphere. I felt nauseous, vomiting, and all that. I felt bad. I went to the doctor, but I didn't want to tell him it was because of that it was a virus. You didn't tell him why? No, because I stayed quiet. The sphere went down because it hit fiber, high-tension cables. Yes, what happened? Supplying some countries, I think at 10,000 V it has a small hole there. That's right, that's where it
Went.
Yes.
And it had a big flame.
Like a burn there. It was burned, yes. So it turned out that the grass dried up, but the day before when I came back the day after. How long did you leave it there? 15 minutes. In 15 minutes, it dried all that. 15 minutes. But I didn't. That's when it came out the next day when I came back and went up. You saw it going up and it was dry. The area where the sphere was dry, where I touched it with my hand. There it is. That's the one you found. That's it.
So he claims that it's the same sphere that is on stage now, although it looks different in the video. He also said that he got sick because he had the sphere on his stomach. Okay, this is where it gets really sketchy. This individual that I'm about to show in this video I believe works directly for Haimei Maan, who's known for hoaxing. And he's describing his experience with the metallic orb after it was handed off to him.
Something very impressive about this sphere is that when Mr. Jose gave it to me, it weighed only 2 kilograms. We went and picked it up in a small van. There were 5 of us, 4 of them dressed in white with lead suits. Why lead suits? Because they are anti-refractory suits, suits that are, anti-static, let's say, used for electronics. With these suits, we went and picked up the sphere, obviously very scared because he had already.
Now, these individuals actually were proven to be employees of one of the contractors, which adds a bit of sus to the whole video.
This sphere landed to be investigated because humanity has to know that there is extraterrestrial technology. And we began to do studies on it as much as we could, which was measurement, weight, temperature, inductance, magnetic fields, floor electric fields, like LoRa, and we discovered that it did have frequencies of 80 to 125. Then we realized that it did have an antenna that transmitted a signal like a radio, but completely different because this changed from 80, 120, 70, 75. In other words, these were completely different communication fields, frequencies that are not seen on the radio. So, my friends, that's when I started to be amazed, not scared, but amazed, because this was something completely strange for us engineers who know about this subject. When I weighed the sphere, it no longer weighed 2 kilograms, but 6 kilograms 65 grams. This totally impressed me because the sphere was gaining weight, in other words, it was losing something. So, my friends, this was totally crazy, this sphere, having it in my hands. So many attacks. I knew this wasn't human. I knew I couldn't give it to anyone because they would make it disappear. When Haimei Maan arrived from heaven, as if he were from another planet, he told me, "Give me this sphere, I'll take away your problems." So I lovingly handed the sphere to Haimei.
I think most noteworthy from that last clip is the fact that the BUGA sphere was gaining weight from 2 kilograms to 6 kilograms. That's a bit unusual. Okay, so here's a clip taken from the Haimei Maan TV. I guess he has a program explaining all about the BUGA sphere and their findings so far.
Next, engineer Rodolfo Garrido presented his hypothesis of how the BUGA sphere was able to fly and stated that they will try to reactivate the sphere in some way so that it can fly again. United States Congressman Eric Burleson, who was one of the special guests at the conference, shared his perspective. "I'm here because I believe this issue is important not only to the United States, but to the world. And this effort has been blocked in Congress. We've been prevented from receiving the information that we need. That's why I think it's about time. Look, no government has the right to protect knowledge about extraterrestrial or non-human intelligence if it exists." Finally, attorney Daniel Sheehan, who worked with then President Jimmy Carter, has assured us that he will work to ensure that the sphere is thoroughly investigated and that it is not seized by any government or institution. "I come from the United States as an attorney and I work with the investigative group that will be handling this. We will take steps to ensure that the United States government and other national security agencies around the world cannot gain custody of this technology, cannot prevent us from conducting an independent investigation and determining exactly what it is."
Okay, so obviously the BUGA metallic orb or sphere has drawn a lot of worldwide attention. It's in Mexico now, and it's actually pulled in Congressman Burleson, civil rights attorney Dan Sheehan, who heads the Paradigm Institute, and Dr. Stephen Greer. But does that mean that it's real? There's still a lot of doubters out there, and many of us that check social media, I'm sure, have heard about the mysterious metallic sphere over the city of BUGA in Colombia. Is the BUGA sphere a legitimate UAP, a secret tech, or an elaborate hoax? There are some red flags that are hard to ignore. First, the video itself has a lot of cuts, lots of edits. Why not show the entire clip? Unless they're hiding something, you know what I mean? Then the design itself, the orb in the sky and the one on the ground, don't really match. The flying one looks like a simple chrome ball. The structure or details we see on the one recovered from the ground and those in the conference in Mexico, all those carvings aren't seen in the video. They just also feel off. Those inscriptions just are kind of crude for something that's supposed to be advanced. Those wobbly lines just don't fit the narrative. So how was it done? Here's a good guess. 2 separate props, one for the sky and another for the ground. How'd they make the one in the sky fly? You can get a hint from this specific cut. The moment the orb passes over the eyewitness, why don't we see it fly directly above the camera? Instead, there's a jump cut right there, probably because it would reveal the entire rig. Most likely, a drone flying a lightweight chrome ball hanging from a fishing line. And the drone noise, easy to edit out. Swap it later with some nature, ambient sounds in the post. So yeah, after looking closely at this one boogosphere might just be man-made. I found it interesting that Patrick Jackson, famous for his theories on metallic orbs, is questioning the boogosphere's authenticity. Patrick Jackson's latest book is The Sphere Network, and he believes that these metallic orbs are a hidden defense system left behind by extraterrestrials to look over the Earth. And I'll just read a brief description. For centuries, mysterious silver orbs have been sighted in our skies, darting through the atmosphere with impossible speed and precision. Dismissed as UFOs, misunderstood as mere anomalies, what if these spheres are something far more profound? Yeah, so Patrick Jackson, the Irish author, has long held this theory that these silver orbs are a defense system for the Earth left behind by extraterrestrials, and they've been around for a long, long time. This is Patrick Jackson's post on X. On X, Patrick Jackson recently posted regarding the boogosphere, and I'm quoting here, "It looks like the pattern was marked out first and then filled in afterward, which might explain the areas that were accidentally missed. To be completely honest," he says, "I wish the boogosphere team well and genuinely hope they're able to gather data or samples that can be independently verified. As things stand, I'm about 80% convinced it's a hoax, but I'm open to being proven wrong. Let's see how this unfolds." And he added a close-up picture of what he's talking about. You can see how it's kind of rough. It wasn't filled in entirely where it's been etched out originally. So the boogosphere may not be real, but there have been other spheres that have not been debunked, like the betasphere. I found this on KM Uncharted Mysteries about the 1974 betasphere. So in 1974, the Betts family was walking around their vast property in northern Florida when an unusual glint of light drew their attention. Lying before them was a perfectly round, silver-bright object, not unlike the boogosphere. It was resting quietly among the charred grass. It wasn't large, only about 8 inches in diameter, but it weighed over 20 pounds. Its outer shell was strangely flawless, smooth, polished, without a single scratch, without any sign of rust or damage. No one in the family could explain where it had come from or why it was there in the first place. Some guessed it might be an old cannonball from the Spanish colonial era. Others thought it was a piece of industrial machinery that had been discarded. But whatever it was, the sphere carried an undeniable and inexplicable pull. At first, the Betts family believed they had simply stumbled on an old curious object, but nothing more and nothing more than an interesting relic. They brought it home, thinking of it as a unique decoration. But what they didn't realize was that this seemingly harmless object was the beginning of one of the strangest and most enduring mysteries ever recorded on American soil. A story that would soon attract the attention of journalists, scientists, and UFO enthusiasts. and eventually even the eyes of the United States government. In the first few days after bringing the sphere home, the Betts family didn't pay it much attention. Then the first strange thing happened. At the time, Terry Betts, the eldest son in the family, was sitting in the living room playing his guitar. That's when he noticed something odd. The sound of the guitar filled the room. The sphere began to vibrate, just slightly, almost imperceptibly. At first, Terry chalked it up to simple mechanical resonance, the kind of subtle vibration you'd expect when sound waves bounce off a hollow metal surface. But within minutes, what he witnessed went beyond anything that conventional physics could easily explain. The sphere wasn't just vibrating, it seemed to be keeping rhythm, not randomly, but in a way that felt deliberate, almost as if it was responding to the music. As the family began to observe more closely, they quickly realized the sphere wasn't just reacting to sound, it could move. The object began to roll slowly across the floor, as if pulled by an invisible force. And more strangely still, it would change direction mid-motion without hitting anything at all. It even rolled gently up a slanted surface, defying the very pull of gravity that should have dragged it down. It didn't take long before word of the moving sphere began to spread. Within less than a week of the first strange occurrences, the Betts family home started drawing attention from all directions. Soon, the media came pouring in. Reporters, photographers, independent documentarians, and even those who claimed to be experts in extraterrestrial phenomenon began showing up at the family door. Some brought audio recorders, electromagnetic sensors, or handheld film cameras. All of them wanted to witness the sphere in motion, just as the rumors had described. And remarkably, more than a few of them walked away with looks of astonishment on their faces. As the first reports about the sphere spread beyond the borders of Florida, the story began to draw attention, not only from the media, but also from branches of the United States government. Among them, the agency that showed the most direct and overt interest was the U.S. Navy. Some high-ranking officials in the region speculated that the sphere could be the remnant of an undisclosed test or perhaps a surviving piece of Cold War-era military surveillance equipment. With the full consent of the Betts family, the sphere was transported to Sealfield Naval Air Station in Jacksonville. There, technicians began by performing X-ray imaging on the object. The first images of the sphere's interior were finally captured. According to the initial internal report, the metallic shell measured roughly half an inch thick, enclosing a hollow chamber. Inside that space, technicians observed three smaller metal objects, roughly spherical in shape, along with a small amount of fine powder settled at the bottom, believed to be sand or some unknown particulate matter. Another detail that drew attention was a small triangular marking etched onto the sphere's surface. Once testing was complete, the U.S. Navy released no official findings. When asked by the press, a spokesperson merely stated that the object was not dangerous and not a piece of U.S. military equipment. The public, however, was unconvinced. If it wasn't a military device, they asked, quote, what had the Navy invested so many resources in examining it, end quote. The question ignited a wave of speculation. Some suggested the sphere was part of a classified research program that had been lost during operations. Others leaned toward a far more radical theory that the object hadn't come from any known industrial process on Earth, but might be extraterrestrial in origin. The debate fractured into competing theories. In 1975, the National Enquirer organized a scientific symposium that brought together experts from a range of disciplines, including psychology, physics, and biology. The goal of the event was to evaluate a number of unexplained phenomena, and among the objects selected for the examination was the Betts sphere. At the conference, the sphere wasn't just observed, it was subjected to several independent tests, and once again, It was reported to move on its own in inexplicable ways, even rolling uphill at times against the expected pull of gravity. It was there that one attending expert, Dr. James Harder, made a startling claim. He asserted that the X-ray images of the sphere's internal structure revealed small metallic spheres composed of elements with atomic weights beyond anything known, surpassing atomic number 40. Harder went so far as to issue a warning. If anyone were to attempt drilling through the sphere's shell, he cautioned it could trigger an extreme release of energy, something akin to a nuclear detonation. Some observers proposed that the Betz sphere might be the remnant of an incredibly sophisticated gyroscopic device. Others offered a far more audacious theory that the sphere didn't come from Earth at all. From their perspective, it was an extraterrestrial probe sent here to observe the planet discreetly. Okay, so I included the video of the Betz sphere because it reminded me of what's going on now with the BUGA sphere. At the time, the Betz sphere drew a lot of attention, and it also polarized public opinion as to its origin, whether it's man-made or extraterrestrial. Is history repeating itself? The Betz sphere itself was never debunked. Hopefully we'll find out what's going on with the BUGA sphere. My name is Al Barrows. This has been UFO Disclosure. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks.